What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Flip Lifestyle Podcast. It is great to be back with you again this week. I am super excited because it's not just me running my mouth. I get to hang out with another amazing member of the Flip Lifestyle community. My guest today is Kate Conwell. Hey, Kate, how you doing?
I'm doing awesome. Thanks so much for having me.
I'm excited to talk to you today because you have had some recent success in your online business. You know, one of our most celebrated days ever is launch day, the day that we launch our business, we get it out in the world, and you were able to launch your online business recently. And what happened when you opened the doors? Tell me what happened.
So I launched, and it was a special day actually because it as my story, it kind of flipped the date for that for me of but we'll get to that later. But I launched and I got a member a couple weeks later, and then I got another member a couple weeks after that. So now I have two members. And
that sounds like the seeds of a community right there is what it sounds like. What did you feel like when you got that first person to actually give you money? It's like that. You know, I remember you used to go into a barbershop and they'd have their first dollar hanging on the wall.
Yes.
Like how did that feel when someone like bet on you and your program?
I know I saved that email, right? It's not $1 anymore. It's like it's a digital dollar.
Did you print it or you just?
I haven't printed it, but I just kept it because I mean, we should put that on the wall, right?
You should, 100%.
It's a funny story because I actually was at the gym and looked at my phone and it said you have a comment in your member area, and I was like, I just got hacked. How do I have? And I was freaked out.
It didn't occur to you someone gave you money. Oh my gosh, that's great.
I missed the email that somebody had signed up, and the first email I saw was that there was a comment. And so I was panicked. and then I went into my email and I saw I had a member, and I was like, I didn't get hacked and I have a member.
That's amazing.
So it was
you made it. You made your first money online while you were at the gym. You know, that's a great story.
Second member signed up when I was at the gym too. So,
but you need to work out more. You just need to work out from 3 to 12 every day. Just be there all day and just keep getting members.
Yeah. Apparently.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. So let's talk a little bit about your story, because I know your idea, and we'll get to your idea here in a second. Mm-hmm. But take us back to how did you find Flip Lifestyle, by the way? How did you find Flip Lifestyle? Just I know, but I want to tell everybody else.
So I got connected through Life Surge, and then saw you on stage, and then came to Income Surge in Dallas a couple weeks after Life Surge, and just really resonated with the idea of family first. And so my husband and I have always been entrepreneurial. And so the idea of scaling a business, but having your family as the priority kind of answered questions that we hadn't specifically been asking. But I just felt oh my gosh, this is what we've been looking for, even though an online membership business wasn't specifically what we were looking for. It was the concepts that we had wanted of having family time and being able to scale and grow something, because the businesses we had not scaled them, and we were trying to think how would they scale and that kind of stuff. So
it's funny because this is why it's one reason we do live events. It's why we have our podcast. It's why we have our community with 15 live calls every week, and all these community calls, because sometimes we know what we want, but we can't articulate it, or we can't put if you don't even know the questions, how can you find the answers? Right. But when you inject yourself into a room with other entrepreneurial people, other people who care about their families, other people who have the same values and want to accomplish similar goals, it doesn't matter what we're all doing, we're all moving in the same direction. And it can coalesce that. It's one reason I love doing the podcast, because I get to sit down and talk to you guys. And it's funny, I know I end up being the person who's eventually you should do this right on this show all the time. But I usually, after the recording's over, when I sit down, I keep a notebook with me after every show, because just talking through these things, right, and hearing about people's journeys and stories, and hearing about your goals and your dreams, and it reinforces to me oh yeah, man, have I been family first this week? Kate made a really good point there. I'm going to go do that in my own business, and it's that's why we built Flip Lifestyle, to be a community. It's why when we do live events, they're not just us talking all the time. It's stopping and working together in groups and being together and having fun, because That's where you really succeed. Like so many people are trying so hard alone and they can't figure it out. And it's not that anyone else has the numbers or the answers. It's that everyone else has the questions and the desire. And once you get in that, like, it's pretty amazing. And you've done amazing in our community. Like, you even made a flipped lifestyle BFF, right? Your FLBF.
Yes. My FLBF. Yes.
How did this happen? How did this happen? Was it on the Zoom calls? Was it in the forums?
Yeah, it was on a call. I'm not sure which call, like a woman's call or just a community call. And I think she said it. She like tagline like, "Oh, you're my FLBF." And at that point, we didn't even really know each other. It was just like she just proclaimed like we're gonna
this is Bridget, by the way. Bridget's been on the podcast too. So
yeah, and I don't know, it's like one of those things, and we say now it's like we feel like we've known each other for so long, but we have not ever met in person.
Wow.
So we hope to meet soon.
And you're in Dallas, and Bridget's in Florida, right? Like, she's not even anywhere near you guys. That makes my heart swim. Like, to know that you guys met through the community, right? And like, people are like, well, does the community really work? And I'm like, yeah, man, you're on Zoom, you're face to face, you're hearing stories, you're in forums, you're talking. And then once you make that connection, you can hang out and you can talk to each other and text each other. And do you all text each other and stuff, or how do you all normally connect?
We're in Voxer. We've had a few phone calls, but Voxers, and then we're in one, just the two of us, and then a couple other women from Flip Lifestyle too are in one, and we have. That's
amazing. Oh my gosh, that makes me happy. Yeah, we're actually adding a lot of like components for masterminding in the new year. So Kajabi's released some new amazing tools that we're about to roll out for the community to even facilitate that more, where like you guys can meet and have whiteboards and stuff, and like sit there and talk. And like, I love we need to talk off air. I need to figure out who's in your other group, like all the girls. Is it all ladies? Is from the women's group? Is it all women?
There's like a girl bosses, and then there's a smaller one that like Bridget and I and Francine and Jen Trinidad and Janae are all. Like,
we need to do a full-blown podcast with the whole mastermind. That's what we need to do. Yes. We might. I did that once before. They they called themselves. They used Voxer too, and they called themselves the Voxy Ladies, and like they have their own Voxer group. And I got all of them on a show. And it was amazing. So we need to do that. We need to get everybody on at the same time, and we'll talk about how the mastermind works. All right. So let's talk about you though. And let's talk about, tell me just a little bit background about you and your story, and tell me how your story led to the idea for your online business.
Yeah. So this is a whole new thing for me, that what I'm pursuing with the Journey Beyond Betrayal. But my background is in fitness, and I was a collegiate athlete and national champion in the pole vault. And so after college, I started being a personal trainer.
Hold on, whoa. Did you just say you won a national championship in pole vault?
I did.
That's incredible. That's the most terrifying sport I watch. I'm always afraid that thing's going to like break,
It did break in that meet. I broke a pole in that meet, actually.
Oh my gosh. That got to be terrifying when that happens. Like,
yeah. It's a whole mental mind game, like, which has helped,
How does one get into pole vaulting? Like, how do you just pick that sport up growing up?
I did it. I was a gymnast when I was like in elementary school. I was like a high level gymnast, and then did track. And so then we had a family friend who had been a pole vaulter, and he was just like, "Hey, I think you would be good at this." And at the time, like, now it's been around for women for a while, but it, like, when I was in high school, it hadn't even been in the Olympics yet for women. So
wow,
this was 98, and he was like, I think you'd be good at it. And so he actually asked me to try it. It wasn't my idea, but I'm thankful to him.
That is epic. So, that is you're the first pole vaulter on the Flip Lifestyle podcast. Congratulations.
Yay!
All right. Yay.
Yes.
Fitness. You were in athletics.
So fitness. Yeah. And so I got into personal training so that I could kind of have like train people, and then also have time for myself. And then I knew I wanted to be a mom. So I kind of continued down that path even after like the Olympic trials in 2008, and I retired. And, so I was doing fitness stuff because it matched with our family goals, kind of just having time to be with my kid. And I didn't intend to be a personal trainer for like a while. My degree is in marketing, but it just seemed to work for what we were doing. And so that was kind of my job I guess, until we moved to Texas. I helped my husband with his business too. He had his own business. We flipped houses in Oregon, and he was a general contractor. So I helped him kind of with communication and stuff like that. So when I came to Flip Lifestyle, I was kind of like trying to figure out where God wanted me next. Like when we moved from Portland to the Dallas area in the July of 2021. And I came to Flip Lifestyle in March of 2022. And so I had kind of been like, okay, God, like what do you want from me? What's next? And kind of trying to figure that out. And I was working for our church, and I thought, okay, maybe this is where he wants me. And then I actually left Income Surge, and I was like, okay, I'm going to do like you heard, fitness, nutrition, all of that. Like that's where I didn't have like a big following, but at least like I had people that I knew in that kind of niche market. And that's what I'd been doing. I was like, oh, I'll do meal planning. Like I meal plan. Everybody says I'm good at it. You said like, what do you know? Like, what have you lived? I always meal plan. It's kind of like a necessity for our family because we're so busy. And I'm like, okay, I'm good at this. I could just like kind of keep track of what we do for a while and then share it. And then like, I just couldn't get any traction. Like, I just was like, okay, I can do this. Like yeah. I don't like meal planning. Like, I do it out of necessity.
If you're going meh, that's probably not the best way to go. That's probably a good sign,
Right. And so I'm like, but I'm really good at it. So then I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to start the blueprint. Right. And so I went to the ideas again, and it went back to like, what have you known? What have you lived? What have you loved? And I had written this down that weekend, but because so essentially what the Journey Beyond Betrayal is, it's a community for women who have experienced infidelity. And that wasn't something I was just going to like discuss, I think, with a table full of people that I don't, it's just not the topic. So I think I kind of just put it to the side and was like, and like, I don't know. But when I went back through the blueprint, I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is it. This is the idea. Like it was like 11. I think it was like 11. It was after 11 p.m. And I was like jumping up and down on my bed.
Are you serious? So you're like watching. So let me picture this. So you're like going through the blueprint. You're watching the idea trainings again, going down the deep dives. And then it hits you all of a sudden like a ton of bricks. Like this idea, maybe you wrote it on a Post-it note over to the side at the event, but didn't really think about it anymore. Like, I'm going to put that over here. And then you're literally jumping up and down on your bed.
Yeah.
Which from a pole vaulter, that makes sense. That would make sense. The DNA would take over at that point.
Yeah. And so that because I've experienced that. So 5 years into our marriage, I discovered infidelity in our marriage, and that my husband had been unfaithful. And so we were able to work through it. We've been married 15 years now.
Amazing.
And so we both pursued our own healing, and then decided, I decided I wanted to pursue like healing the marriage. And so it's like, in that moment, it was like, it just seemed like all these pieces, like you could see like, oh my gosh, that's what God was doing there. This is all these little things.
Yep.
That
the aha
kind of
moment doesn't happen when you want it to.
Yes.
It happens at 11 o'clock at night, jumping on your bed. Right.
I ran it by my husband because I wasn't going to.
For sure.
Without his, and he was he's been fully on board like the whole time.
So your website is journeybeyondbetrayal.com, right? Want to make sure everybody knows that, because like I was looking this up just here real quick. Like it's like over 50% of people cheat or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So this is the thing that's out there. There's so many millions of people who deal with this, right? And then there's so many forks in the road when something like that happens, right? Like, and you're dealing with it. But first you find out, then you're dealing with it by yourself. You don't want to tell anybody. Your spouse probably doesn't want to tell anybody. So now you're like alone, and like you're just feeling like you're going through this. But I love you have a tagline. It's like behind you, navigating infidelity together. And like, that's powerful. Like, did you come up with that like yourself? Because that's amazing, because with your business I think there's a restoring of the marriage component here, right? Like to that, if they want to restore their marriage, and doing it with other women together, like to navigate this as they go through it.
Yeah. So mine actually just focuses on the woman's healing, and like, it's because and then, I mean, eventually it may grow into the marriage, but
if they got that, but it's getting the woman past that experience first,
Well, and because my husband pursued his own healing, and he was like 100% all in, like from day one, which is really rare. Like I'm done with this. Like this isn't who I wanted to be. I'm so like kind of a relief of like being discovered, which is not, our story is a little bit unusual in that sense, because most men don't like immediately be like make it 180-degree turn, but not all men are like that. But all women still need to heal. You've still been broken, and your heart is shattered, and you need to put the pieces back together. So that was kind of there is some stuff out there for women in marriage, and it's like this. I think just the way we did it, like I pursued my healing and he pursued his healing, and then we pursued our healing together. And so I think it's important for women to have a place where they can pursue healing, regardless of if they're married still, regardless of if they're going to stay married.
Okay. They found this out. This has happened to them. Now, bam, you got to heal, whether you end up together or not. Has your husband ever, my mind goes so far into the future, but like that's a pretty crazy thing too for your husband later to even branch off of this, because his story is probably powerful of like, how did he decide to 180 turn and things like that, which we don't have to go into that. But like this is an incredible story. Like, and an incredible story is usually the foundation of great business, It's on my vision board for him to do that, but we'll get him.
He's not there.
Let's get you 500 members, and then he'll start looking over going, wait, what's going on over there?
And he does help men. He just through a different organization. So he's prepared. God's preparing him like he's prepared me for this. So
that's exactly right. You plant your seeds in the morning, see what happens in the afternoon. Right. Okay. So So Journey Beyond Betrayal.com, navigating infidelity together is a place where women who have discovered that their husband has had infidelity can come to start their healing journey and make sure that they can overcome this and heal it. Some outcomes might be, because this is kind of outcome independent, because the husband's got to decide if they want to heal too. Right. So it's focused on the women, helping them heal regardless of what happens with the marriage. That is a really needed thing before we go further, this is awesome. I remember I was in a Sunday school class one time, and it was like we had just joined the Sunday school class, not here where I live now. And at like the first or second time we were there, one of the spouses confessed infidelity. They'd already told their spouse, and they were talking to their small group about it. And I just remember that being like the most powerful thing I had ever seen in my entire life. You know what I mean? Like that this had happened and these people were going through this. And I was like, that's crazy. And like seeing a community of people rally around them to help them in that situation, which is not as focused as what you were doing. Even it was just people, but like I can see why this would be a draw for women to join this. We don't have to get too personal, but like, how did you feel when you first found out about this?
I mean, my story, you can ask me anything.
All right. Okay. So take me back. We'll go through the classic flipped lifestyle storytelling framework here. Okay. Okay. So you're married, you're living your life. And then all of a sudden this happens. Like, what happened when you found out? Like, did you find out? Did someone tell you? Like what happened?
Yeah. So I picked up his phone and found like some really like sexually inappropriate text messages, and like confronted him. And just said, "What is this? Like, I see this. What is this?" And he tried to deny it, and then eventually, he admitted to it. And then it was like this disclosure, they call it the disclosure process, which it's like a staggered disclosure is what I got, which is terrible. It's actually not the best way to do it. There's a whole way you should do it. But it was like, I just kept learning new things. Like, okay, this is it. It was like, oh, it's just the text messages. Oh, it's just text messages. And I'm addicted to pornography. Oh, it's text message. I'm addicted to pornography. And like, you can assume I've texted all of your friends this way. Like, all right, any woman in my phone, basically, except for a few. And at that point I was like, okay, we had a 1-year-old. I took him and went to my family to stay there. And while I was there, I learned that he had actually like had sex with a woman twice while he was traveling. And then learned of like something from before we were married. So it was like every time I thought I hit the bottom, I hit the bottom again. And then that's why like right now we're reading in our community this book called Transcending Post-Infidelity Stress Disorder, because it's like PTSD. It can be like PTSD, especially when you get like a staggered disclosure like that, where it's like, oh my gosh, it's the worst, it's the worst, it's the worst.
Man.
So I knew, like, obviously that was the worst thing. I mean, it's still the worst thing that's ever happened to me.
First of all, that was tremendous what you just said, like the way you told that, and your expertise poured out of you, the going through this right there. Like it, like to hear you using like the terminology and stuff like that, just from I'm going to step out of the whole conversation for a second because it's emotional, but like, that's why we are so adamant about people telling your story. I read a thing the other day that said, tell even the stories you don't want to tell, right? Because when you're trying to help other people, it's the only way to demonstrate you know what you're talking about, you know, not only knowledge-based, but like, I can tell you have a heart for the women who are going to come into your community because of that story, you know? That's incredible. And then like, so did you all separate for a while there after that?
Yeah. So then I was like, I don't know, this is terrible. Right. And we had just moved back to the Northwest. We both went to the University of Washington, go Huskies. But we had just moved back there from Auburn, Alabama. And so we like, that's where his family was. I mean, my family was down in Portland, but like all of my community for the last like 2.5 years was back in Auburn. So I went and I just picked up, and I like that, which is totally unlike me. I'm very responsible. I'm very like, nope, I have to honor my commitments. And I was like, I can't do it. Like, I can't. And this is where I always get like, this is where I'm going to start crying. This is where I always get teared up. So I called these women and I just said, I can't take care of this is what's happened. Like, I don't know what else to do. Like, will you take care of me? Like, can we come back there? Like, and I was like, but this, like, I can't take care of myself. And they were like, come back. Like, we'll take care of you. And so I went and like, I lived in, like I said, I was a personal trainer. So like 3 of these women were my clients, and one was like my Alabama best friend, my ALBF. And they just kind of surrounded me and like I had a 1-year-old, like, right. So he can't take care of himself. And they took care of him. They took care of me. Like, they fed me. They let me like grieve. Basically, I just got to sit in all my feelings without having any responsibility and kind of just process it all, pray, cry, whatever I needed to do. They just let me do it. And they took care of my son and kind of got me back to a place where I was like, okay, like I'm ready. That was a 2-week period, probably like 3 weeks after, like, and then I was like, okay, like now I'm ready to, I think by the time I left there, I had like, okay, like ordering some books to try to figure out like, how do I get out of this? Cause like, I'm hurt. Like I don't know how to deal with this. This is the worst thing I've ever experienced. Like, but I'm not gonna like stay here. I need to heal, whether I'm with him. This is where the kind of the idea for the community, like my mentality was like, whether I'm with him or not, like I'm broken. I've been deeply broken and I need to heal from this. And so how do I do that? I have a 1-year-old. I know that I'm either going to I'm going to be with somebody and I'm going to be with myself for sure. Like I'm stuck with myself for the rest of my life. So I'm going to,
right.
I don't want to be broken. I want to be healed. And so how do I do that? And that's kind of the vision was like, okay, you can pursue your own healing. You have a choice. Like you feel like, because you didn't choose what happened to you, but you do get to choose how you move forward from it. So in a situation where you might feel powerless, like you have the power to choose this.
What year was that happened?
2012.
Like how long did it take you to go through this particular valley?
Well, there's some interesting pieces of this. And
it's a podcast. We love interesting.
I know. So we went through it like not in a way I would like necessarily recommend people.
Okay. Hold on. Let me hit pause again. Let me put my business hat back on. Okay. But this is what you just said is so common amongst all problems that people solve. Okay. Like I would never recommend anyone start an online business like me and Jocelyn did it. It was disastrous the way we did it. It's why we started this, and like the way you like you're not telling the story necessarily to tell people what to do. You're telling them what not to do, right? Like maybe it was bad. And we don't we don't have to go too far, but like what happened next, basically.
Okay. So I did pursue my own healing, and he was pursuing his. I mean, I could spend hours just telling this story, and I have done that with women. As we were pursuing our own healing, like we more quickly than I would have anticipated, our marriage started to be reconciled. And so like my second son, like I said, so this was October of 2012, and our second son was born in July of 2013. So I think it was 6 weeks after I discovered that he was conceived, which is the part that I'm like, but I wouldn't say that we were healed at that time, because I remember being like, I'm very like strong, independent, like woman. And I was like, I don't care. I'm pregnant. I'll do this by myself. Like it doesn't work.
Yeah. I do love that, because the stumbling forward into, you didn't know what to do. So you were just doing whatever happened next and thinking through it. And and
his name is Jackson with an X, which means God is gracious. And so we wanted him like to be named like God redeems, but those names are super weird. So
I don't know what that is.
I don't remember what they were, but we like tried to find it, and it was like some, those weird like biblical names.
What's amazing though is like, first of all, I'm very happy that you've both healed individually, and I am very grateful that your marriage was healed too, because that's super important. Just and that your kids, get to experience the healing. That's amazing.
Yeah, I'm two parents.
Yeah, two parents, and and God works in mysterious ways. But I love the story, because stories where people are alone, they need help, and that's why we build communities online. Two, people want to like always show their hero's journey in the most creative light of this is what's possible and the hopes and dreams of the future and all that. But at the same time, it's like, hey guys, I'm the leader here, and I want to tell you this is probably not how I would recommend do it. Like even not that that is so important, because people aren't looking for perfection. They're looking for people who can help them with their problem, right? And especially problems like the more alone people are, the more they need help from an online community, because some things like you don't want, like this is an infidelity issue. You would not want your local community necessarily to even be helping you with it, because like, for example, like there were people on that phone who were in your local community. I mean, it's like, it's like there's a problem with a local community sometimes. There's also like not just in niches like this where it's like wisdom based or like experience based. Even like sometimes, there are some jobs, like if you own a restaurant and you're looking for a group to help you market your restaurant, you don't necessarily want to be in with all the other restaurants in your main street, because you're using tactics that you want your restaurant to grow, right? So it helps to have a community externally outside of your community. Then this is why stuff like what you're building can become so freaking powerful. It's why podcasts like and content like yours on YouTube and stuff usually have very devout followings, because they're reaching out from their normal life to find people. So it's you need to tell the imperfections, tell the where you did it wrong, tell the where you did it right. That's what people want. That's amazing. All right, so you've turned this into now this community. And you've got people who are in your community now. Okay. How have you turned this into a product? Is it like a monthly membership? Are you recording courses? Like, let's review that real quick, and then we'll talk about how we can grow this thing. Okay. So what are these two members getting that are in your community now?
So I launched with my minimum viable product, which was the community, which was honestly like my heart from the beginning. Like I was always like, community. And then it was like, but they need content. And so that kind of overwhelmed me. And so then I went back to, okay, what I want these women to not feel alone. Like I want them to know there's other women, and I want them to hear their stories. Like you said, like you've said multiple times, there's power in sharing our story. And like, that's what this is about. It's about having a place where you can share your story with other women that aren't like down the street from you, like that. And so we have a weekly meeting where we kind of just talk about like struggles. I asked them to come with a struggle, a celebration, and a goal for the week, or struggle and celebration from the past week, and a goal for the upcoming week. because it's like about not getting stuck, right? So easily you can get kind of stuck. So the goal is like forward looking. And then I usually have a couple other questions that we discuss. And then I mentioned the book. So we're also reading through a book, which is kind of the content right now while I'm preparing content of my own. Like there's a lot of wisdom, and that's part of what I did. I read a ton of books because I couldn't find a group. And so I just kind of read a bunch of books to educate myself and figure out like, how do I get through this? What do I do? And so we're reading books and we discuss the books. And then we have a monthly Q&A with like an expert. And so that might be a woman who's, on the other side of it. It might be someone who counts, like works with people like that have experienced infidelity or like grief. That's what we're discussing this month, is kind of grief. And so Carrie Kitchen is coming to be our Q&A.
Carrie is amazing. Carrie works for me, by the way, if everyone wants to know that. But she's a counselor. She was a counselor in her former life before she became director of operations at Flip Lifestyle. Man, I am so impressed by this. Like, you're just like gutsy, because like, I say this all the time on live events. You probably remember me saying this, like, don't overcomplicate this, people. It's like, tell your story. And like, you're basically, your business that you've gotten people to pay for is a Zoom account and whatever book you decide to read and whoever you get on to talk. That's amazing. And people want that. They crave that, right? Now, you are correct. They do need to flesh that out. We need your content, but actually I don't think that I would recommend you really get too down the content wagon right now. I think that you should probably be in total recruitment mode. Yeah. Because what you've got is clearly valuable to these people. And if 2 people will buy it, then 200 people will buy it. So we need to figure out how we're going to get more people to join, because sometimes we know what content, like you're clearly an expert in what you've been through, but you're not an expert yet in what questions other people have. Right. You know what questions you had for your personal experience, but I will imagine that all of these stories, while having similar themes, they're going to be very different. They're going to, it's going to be different, like how they discovered it was happening. It's going to be different how angry they are, or how committed to healing they are. Right. Yeah. It's just going to be different. And I don't know if you're ready yet to create that content. You need more people. You need a really quick 10 to 20 people is what you need, Yeah. That's where I'm at. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't usually recommend that. Normally when you get a couple people, we go straight into content, but yeah. And I have like a mini version of content that I like is almost finished. It's just like some mindset stuff, but like, and like I said, I'm tracking with you. Keep going. Okay. So let me back up. We know now that something launched and it worked. Are you creating public content right now? Yeah. Which is kind of fun, actually, because I connected my fitness and my and this. I was struggling with like social media and what do I put out there, and I'm in a good flow right now. It's called Workout Wisdom for Your Journey Beyond Betrayal, and it's lessons that apply from kind of a fitness mindset that also like applied to your journey beyond betrayal. So where do you post them at? Instagram and Facebook is where I'm on right now. What's your Instagram account? Journey Beyond Betrayal. There's, I think, like 5 of them so far, and I have like a notebook full of stuff. All right. I am looking here. We're encouraging, educating, equipping, and empowering women as they walk through the pain of infidelity and find healing. That's amazing. Awesome. Got some followers coming on. That's what I'm talking about. No, this looks great. Okay, this is perfect. Okay, so we got a little thing here. So that's a social media strategy. Do you have a blog or anything that you're posting on? Not yet. No, the other way I've been like getting the word out is just with connections, I guess, networking. I'm going to make a suggestion. Okay. So yes, I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that the most powerful thing you can do is tell your story and share these ladies' stories that are willing to share them, And I think with this brand, there's I think you can repurpose content for podcasts for sure. Like, you've got to do that. But I think with something this sensitive of a topic, you have to see people's faces sometimes, right? Like, it's not like a knowledge-based thing. This is a very experiential thing. You're already using Instagram, which is very visual anyway. You're already making some video content, which is amazing because now you can repurpose that. But like, I think you've got to start a YouTube channel, and like, that's where you need to be all in on. Like, you need to go all in on YouTube, and then you can just like embed it and paste it, you can do a blog on your website too, but like, you can just embed your videos if you want to there. I think you've got to have a YouTube channel, and you're going to like, it's like a YouTube community for women who, I think you got to also get a little clearer in some of your messaging. It says empowering women as they walk through the pain of infidelity. Like, I would almost be like, that's a great tagline for your website. But, an Instagram for women women in the middle of experiencing infidelity. Like, we got to be really clear who this is for when you start this YouTube channel. Like, so when people type in things like, for example, you need a video that says, I caught my husband cheating. Like, I'm looking up search traffic here. That's a search term that people are typing into YouTube. I'm looking at it on vidIQ right now. We need to look up what people are looking for. Like, if I go, there's a tool called vidIQ.com. When I go to keywords in vidIQ, I can type in like, for example, you caught your husband cheating. That's what happened, right? And we look at that, we can see data on how many times people look for that. Okay. So that specific term has very low competition, which means there's not a lot of videos about it. Okay. But it's got 3,218 searches per month. It gives me matching terms. So it'll show me things that are related to this, right? The day I caught my husband cheating on me, that could be a YouTube video's actual name. And that gets searched for 5,347 times a month on average, right? 0.6, if you want to get real particular, right? And like, that's a video. I caught my husband cheating on me. This is the strangest coaching call I've ever had. I caught my husband. I'm just saying, I caught my husband cheating out loud again. I was going to snippet this and put me on YouTube saying this. I caught my husband cheating on me, so I did this, because that's an actual search term that 4,600 times on average a month in the last year gets searched for. But think about this. Someone doesn't, that's someone, if you go backwards into that person who searched that and you think like them, I don't know what to do. What do I do? Yeah. So they're looking for, so I did this. And that's a YouTube video. This area is so search rich. I know that there's going to be like, there's 231 other matching terms. And you can go through here and go through and find hundreds of ideas for this. And people are going to be looking for these things. Like the top search is the day I caught my husband cheating on me. Like, that's your first blog. That's your first YouTube video. And you just tell the story you told today. I was looking through the phone. I saw this. That's going to create discovery. And that's really what you need right now. Right. And then you need, probably even more than list building right now, you need a direct link to your community. Like, hey, we've got a community here. Get inside this. How much is the monthly community right now?
It's only $25 a month.
That's okay. But if there's 1,000 people paying you, you don't talk about only anymore, right? Like, I think like you probably know people you could reach out to. I think that's where you're at right now, is like, you've got this thing. We know it's possible. It reminds me of a buddy of mine named Joe Nicoletti's membership. It doesn't have anything to do with this kind of topic. He actually helps writers write, and he created an accountability group. And all it was a Zoom call, and he had a giant hourglass, and he just flipped it over, and they wrote together for an hour. You know what I'm talking? You know the story, right?
I heard the story at the income surge.
So we didn't know what to do with it. We just knew it was a good idea. He just threw it out there with like one writing time a week. But then once people got in, he learned that they needed other writing times. They wanted some other things. And that's how it built. And I think that's where you're at. We just get it more people in this as fast as possible. YouTube's quick. It's like, you don't have to do anything. You just have to turn on a camera and tell your stories over and over, with all these different words. So here's what I would do if I were you next. Okay. I would, one, get vidIQ and sign up for it today and get the pro plan. It's probably not that much. It's probably $15 or something. That's going to let you research YouTube search traffic. And then you need to go through all the, I'm going to type in healing after infidelity. That's 1,000 searches a month that people are looking for that, right? Surviving infidelity gets searched for 17,500 times a month on YouTube. So surviving infidelity would be a great video, right? Yeah. Like, I would probably start a video off of 1, surviving infidelity, 2, the day I found out, 3, so I did this. Like, those are your first 3 YouTube videos. So map those out. Talking head. Don't overcomplicate this. The way you look right now on camera with that background is perfect. write down about 10 interview questions you would ask yourself or another person who experienced infidelity. Get Bridget on, let her interview you, okay, with those questions and ask you follow-up questions to talk it through. A conversation works really good like this too. That'll make it easier for you to record the videos. Just do it on Zoom, record it, and upload those to YouTube with those things. And in the description, normally you're trying to keep people on YouTube, but in this case, I think you should say at the end of these 3 core videos, like, hey, we've got a community where we talk about this stuff every week. We'd love to have you in there. It's $25 a month. Click here and go join, right? And let's try to get a few more people in there. And the content will come. Everything will flow out of these people. But I think you've got to go find people right now. You've got to make this public as possible. Yeah.
Yeah. That's where I'm tapped out the people that I know, which was a good amount of people. And actually that's how I got my second member, was like, they just were like, hey, you should do this. And literally signed up for the lead magnet, signed like 10 minutes later your offer is going to convert like crazy because the people are looking for this probably. Like if I type it in surviving betrayal, I'm not doing very well. I need a community to survive this. Right. Yeah. So that's why you want to use very specific keywords in these YouTube videos. It'll start fleshing it out. You just need to find more people, and all the stuff you post on Instagram, those little videos, you can upload those to YouTube Shorts, and they go like viral, fast. Yeah. But I think that's where you got to go. I think YouTube, go there and be really prolific. Like I would almost set a goal. Probably this is an insane goal. Like for now, you don't want to keep this up. You probably need a YouTube video every day. Keep them short, 5 to 10 minutes. Like for like a 30 days, like I'm just going to go on a tear and see how much attention I can get with these very specific terms, like surviving infidelity, how I survived infidelity, like surviving infidelity. What was the other one? That was the day I caught my husband cheating. Yeah. You need to use words people are searching for. Get you about 20 or 30 good titles. Research that really hard with your mastermind. Think about the words you searched for when you were doing it. And I have a friend in this niche who's like doing YouTube also. They do the marriage side. So I'll just ask her. Oh, that's another thing you do too. Like now that like when I search for, I'm going to type in surviving infidelity, and then I just kind of glance through like, what are the top searches? Like, okay, so I can tell you right now that not a lot of people are doing this correctly. Like okay, so this one's surviving infidelity, 4 ways to help a betrayed spouse see the unfaithful spouse differently or whatever. So if you just have one called surviving infidelity, 3 things I did in the first year or something like that, right? Stuff like that. Like, if you go through and actually search for this and see what's ranking, you can see that you can not manipulate, but you can speak a language better. Like, for example, Jordan Peterson, what happens after you find out your partner is cheating? That's like that guy. Jordan Peterson is a political philosopher. Yeah. No woman wants to watch that video. They want to see Kate who went through it. Like I survived infidelity and you can too. Here's 3 tips or something like that. The thumbnail game is not very strong either on these. That's the subject line and the thumbnail are the 2 most important things on YouTube. So, if it's you with like not big words and stuff like that. And like some of these videos, like this one's got 900, the one that said surviving infidelity, like it's got 48,000 views. This one's got 2.7 million views. This one's got 98,000 views. So like there's tons of views out there waiting for people to see this, but you're just not there yet. But when you get out there and you put your face on these thumbnails and you are coming from the heart, and I really like the interview route, like getting write down those 30 questions and get like Bridget to just kind of be on there with you and y'all can talk about that situation. I think that would come over really well and give you some quick content to get some people out there. Okay. Yeah. All right. So this is awesome. This is great. You got a really clear next step. And then once we get some audience, we'll get more people in there. We need 10 people in there. That'll help you build the content out. I'm super proud of you, by the way, because like, I know your first idea. We know what happened. And like some people give up right then, but like people don't realize it's not the first idea that matters. The first idea helps you learn the process. And then all of a sudden at 11 o'clock, you're dancing in your bed because you have the real idea. And this idea is like going to change people's lives, and that's pretty powerful. And I'm just super proud of you and your husband too, for putting this out there. It's not easy to talk about sensitive subjects, especially when they involve other people. But that's courageous, and you guys should be commended for that. So this is pretty awesome. Thanks. What is your next step? What are you going to do in the next 24 hours
to get this ball rolling and make this happen?
I got to get on vidIQ and find some. I think I'm going to work with the titles, find some titles, and then come up with some interview questions in the next 24 hours. And then I'll have to record them.
And then get your FLBF to jump on with you. All right.
Yep.
All right, Kate. Yeah. One more time for everybody out there. If there's anybody out there, we have a lot of listeners. So anyone that's struggling with this right now, like where can they, again, one more time, find your website, and where can they find you on Instagram?
JourneyBeyondBetrayal.com is my website, and at Journey Beyond Betrayal on Instagram is where you'll find me.
All right, guys, that wraps up my interview with Kate Conwell. Man, she's doing amazing things over at JourneyBeyondBetrayal.com. And it just goes to show you, y'all, man, you can turn your passions, the things you love, you can turn the things, your knowledge, the things you've learned, and you can, even the darkest chapters of your life, you can turn into an online business that can not only help a lot of people, but the worker deserves their wages, man. Get out there and go out and set up a community. Like, where else could someone go get help from a situation like Kate deals with for $25 a month? Like, that's cheaper than one counseling session, and you get a whole community of people that have gone through the same thing, and you're getting help from someone who's made it to the other side. Like, you can explore these things that you've been through and go out. The darkest chapter of my life is the day I found out my son was being abused at a daycare center. And that started a chain of events that led me to pursue a different life for me and my family, a life where I could be there for my family when they needed me most. And that's the story. And that's the story that I tell out into the world. I go out and I speak on stages all over the place. I talk on my podcast. I do all kinds of crazy stuff. We write books. And, I start with that story. That's where my journey really begins. And a lot of people are starting their journey right now. That today was the day they found out about the darkest thing that's ever happened to them. They found out about their kid, their spouse, there's something else happened to them. And they immediately start looking online for help. And they may need you to be the person that helps them. They may need you. They may need someone who's walked through the valley of the shadow of death and climbed out on the other side, to not just keep walking, but to look back and throw a rope down into the valley to help them out too. And that's what we can do with online business. That's what we can do with the internet. That's what we can do as human beings, man. That's what's irreplaceable. You can't automate helping people through something like Kate does with AI. It's irreplaceable. That's job satisfaction and guaranteed for life, right? So go out there, take your wisdom, take your experience, take your knowledge, take the things you love, and turn them into an online business.